Okay, on the left-hand side of the paper, I want you to take some notes. So we're going to go over what circumference actually is. And before we do that, let's talk about perimeter. And perimeter is when you find the outside of any shape that's not a circle. And let's say that you're a person and you're walking around the, like someone's property. If you're walking the perimeter, you're walking around the outside of their property. Like you're walking around the outside edge and looking for something, something like that. And same thing is true with circumference. Circumference is just special because it's only for circles. So perimeter is with all the other shapes, except for a circle, but it's the exact same thing. So just like a perimeter would be, you just add up all the sides. That's what it would be like if a circle had a side, but circles don't have sides, so it's not that simple. But it's still pretty simple. Circle, anytime you do anything with a circle, you're going to be using pi. Okay? Pi is 3.14. Obviously it's rounded there because pi is irrational. It never stops. It never repeats. And the best approximation for it is 22 over 7, or, 3.14159. Some people memorize 100 digits of it. I don't go any further than 3.14 because the calculator, when I hit pi, the pi button, it does a good job. I don't know how many digits it uses, but it uses more than I can memorize. So I usually just use the pi button on my calculator. But just know that you're never going to memorize all of pi. And it's only used with circles. So don't use pi with triangles or with rectangles or parallelograms or anything like that. You're only going to use pi when you're dealing with circles. So, the formula for the circumference of a circle is circumference is diameter times pi. And the way that people memorize it is cutie pie. Okay? And the reason they do that is because it kind of looks like it, like D pie, like cutie pie. And as long as you can remember cutie pie, you're probably going to be fine. And you won't have to really do anything else. So we're going to just do an example, and hopefully this will become very simple. So on the left-hand side, I want you to write down all of everything that I've said, the 22 over 7, 3.14, the formula, circumference equals diameter times pi, and make sure you have it all written down. We're going to do an example. Okay, so the first thing that I want you to know is they gave you the radius, okay? I need you to pick up on the fact that they gave you the radius. But to find circumference, we need the diameter. So if the radius was 5, what would the diameter be? So let's not forget, if the radius is 5, the diameter would be twice that, because you have to go all the way across the circle. So the diameter would be 10. And what's really great about math and pi and the higher you get in math is that they like to leave things in terms of pi. So a lot of times you'll see it written as circumference is 10 pi. And that's it. Like, it's diameter times pi. So let's just recap. So diameter times pi. And we knew that the diameter was 10. And so 10 pi. And we could leave it like that. That's actually fine. This is okay. Now, a lot of times they want us to actually find out what that would be in decimals. And that's fine too. So in our calculator, we just put 10 pi and hit enter, and it gives us 31.4, something, and that's fine too. And, we don't really, either one of these are good. They're both the exact same thing. Now, the thing that we have to remember is that circumference is a measurement. It literally is a distance. So let's just recap. Let's say that we have a house and it's shaped like a circle. And someone's going to walk the perimeter. Okay, so the circumference or something. Alright, so let's say we got a man walking out here. And he's walking around, all the way around. He's actually walking like a distance. Like maybe it's a mile. Maybe it's 850 feet. I mean, I don't know how far it is. But he is walking a distance. So when we find circumference, it actually has to be a distance. So let's look back on the question. And it was inches. So it is 10 pi inches, or 31.4 inches. So let's write it in. We can't forget our units, because units matter, especially in geometry, and otherwise our answers don't make sense. You know, like if someone said, you know, how much is this? And you said 2. Someone might say, what, 2 what? $2,000? $2? You know, what is it? You got to actually say the rest of it for it to make sense. Okay, so let's try the next one. So go ahead and do the next one, and then we'll do it together and see if you get it right. So the question really is, did they give you the radius or did they give you the diameter? Because we need the diameter. I'm going to write the formula at the top of the page. We need the diameter. And they gave us the radius. So the very first thing that we need to do is take the radius and find the diameter. So if the radius is 8, how much would the diameter be? And so what you do is you take 8 and then double it, or 8 plus 8, and get 16. So the circumference would be 16 pi, and that's okay. And we got feet, don't forget our feet. 16 pi feet, and that's our answer. And we can leave it like that. Or we can push our enter calculator, you know, 16 pi, enter, and it'll give us the decimal version. I want us to write it both ways every time to get used to it, because both answers are correct, and depending on what you're going to do with it later, like if you are done, if it's your final answer, I say put it in decimal form. If you are going to use that answer to then plug in to a different part, I say leave it in pi form, because pi form is actually more accurate. It's not been rounded. So sometimes it's better to leave it in pi form, and other times it's better not to. Because most people, if you tell them 15 pi, they don't know how to come up with an answer. They don't know how to convert that to real numbers, okay? So you need to actually give them something like 46. So just know that you need to be able to give them both answers. So we're going to give 2 answers for every one of these. We're going to give them inversions of pi, and in terms of pi, and in decimal form. Okay, so if you hit 16 pi and enter on your calculator, you get 50.26 feet. And so let's just talk about that. So this guy, and according to this, if the diameter was 16 feet, he would walk 50.26 feet around the house. That's what we're saying. Okay, try number 3 by yourself. Alright, number 3, I'm going to write the formula at the top of the page. Diameter times pi. And then the question becomes, did they give us the radius or did they give us the diameter? If they gave us the diameter, all we've got to do is just tack a pi onto the end of it. But if they gave us the radius, we've got to double it first. And they did give us the radius. So the radius is 15. So we've got to double it. So the diameter is 30. So the circumference is 30 pi. And then we can't forget our yards. So this is an answer, and that is a good answer. There's nothing wrong with that answer. But again, in normal people language, nobody knows what 30 pi is. So let's put it in our calculator and hit enter. And let's see what 30 pi really is. And it's 94.24. Oh, 25. We have to round. Alright, so again, if in our example, if this was 15 yards, oops, nope, 30 yards. If this was 30 yards, then he would have walked 94.25 yards around the house. And that's always the concept. Okay, I want you to try 4 through 9 by yourself, and then raise your hand and let me look at them. Don't go any further without letting me check your work before you move on. So do 4 through 9 by yourself, and then let me look at them.